Well, how does daily life look in Israel these days during war? It was like 2 weeks ago or something. I published some videos on this YouTube channel showing you how it looks like around Jerusalem's Machane Yehuda market. I live in Jerusalem, and when you look at the videos, you may get the impression that everything is just normal. It's not. It's far away from normal. Israel is still in a state of shock because of what happened on the 7th of October, when far more than 1,000 people, excuse me, were brutally murdered by Hamas. And murdered is not only, let's say, shot, but people were burned alive, whole families were wiped out, people, even babies, were beheaded. And I don't want to imagine what these people were going through. Women were raped, not only raped, but raped with items. Many Arabs like to do that, especially Hamas. And I can't tell you, I don't even want to imagine what these people went through during their last moments alive. So this is what Israel has to deal with, or what Israelis have to deal with this state of shock. And we have rockets flying in all the time. I live in Jerusalem, and so far we've been we had a few sirens going off, we had a few rocket alarms, but not so many, for one reason or for two reasons, because the Hamas rockets from Gaza don't really reach Jerusalem, and if they do, it happens that they do. They are being eliminated by the Israeli Iron Dome system. So we are very happy to have that. So life has been more or less normal here in Jerusalem. But you have to take into consideration, it depends on where you live in this country. If you live in the south, near the Gaza Strip, you are being constantly flooded with rockets. So what the government did is they took people, or they evacuated the town of Sderot. There are people living in Sderot, which is near the Gaza Strip, but thousands of people, I think the town has 30,000 residents. Most people were evacuated. And also now people, the residents of Kiryat Shmona, of a town next to the Lebanese border, they have 24,000 inhabitants were evacuated. Not all of them, because people, some people say, we want to stay. And they are free to stay, no one is being forced. So many Israelis have been displaced these days. They were taken to Eilat, to hotels, and to Jerusalem, to hotels, because Jerusalem has been more or less safe. Although we had a few rocket alarms, but as I said, not too many. So Jerusalem is still considered to be a safe, more or less, safe place. So you have to imagine people from the south and people from the north had to pack up their suitcases and go somewhere else, like, as I said, to Jerusalem, or someone to Tel Aviv, to relatives all over the country where it is safer. The problem is as soon as Lebanon, I mean the Lebanese Hezbollah, the terror group, they've been shooting rockets in the north, over the northern border, but if they really enter the war, they have long-range missiles. Meaning that they also reach Jerusalem. So we don't know what the future brings. We could also be destroyed. Although Arabs also always have to take into consideration, Hamas is Hezbollah, that many Palestinians live in Jerusalem, in their neighborhoods. There are many Palestinian neighborhoods here, and there's also the Temple Mount. And we always wish that one of the rockets would hit the Temple Mount and destroy the Dome of the Rock or something. This would be actually quite funny. But it's not easy life here. It's not easy. It's not easy emotional. People are, of course, people have to go shopping. This is what you see in the videos. People have to go shopping. People have to go shopping everywhere. You need some groceries. Although sometimes there is a little shortage of something. Not too many times, but sometimes there is. And prices have really gone up. Groceries have really become more expensive here. And people try, in order to keep their sanity, after all what happened, the mass murders, the massacre on the 7th of October, and what's going on now, and the unknown of what is coming, what is waiting for us, people try to keep their sanity. And in order to do this, you have to have a kind of daily routine and more or less a normal life. And this even means go for a cup of coffee. In the south, you can't do this. You can hardly leave the bomb shelter. You are being flooded with rockets. But here in Jerusalem, many cafes or restaurants are open and many are closed. It depends. And as I said, you know, we can't just be in a bomb shelter, or we can't just be in hiding. You go nuts. You go insane after all what happened and what's happening and all this unknown, what's coming. You can't just sit inside, and we are being told many times to stay inside. Also in Jerusalem. In Jerusalem, you know, there is a little nightlife here. Here in my area, in my neighborhood, there are many Palestinians. And here, most people are at home by 5 o'clock. They come from work. Here, people go to work in many places of the country. And you know what? People work together with Palestinians. You know, when you go to hospitals here, for instance, or to, I don't know where, to supermarkets, to offices, to banks, you have Jews and Muslims, like Palestinians, working together. My family doctor is a Palestinian. When I go to my healthcare, my Kupat Cholim, my family doctor is Palestinian, and he's a very good doctor. I like him very much. He's very good. But in Israel, the paradox is you have Israelis and Palestinians working together. You have Palestinian bank clerks. You have Palestinian supermarket workers. You have Palestinian people working at McDonald's. You have Palestinians. You have Palestinian lawyers. I once had to go to court a few years ago and be a witness, and because of a traffic accident, and the judge was a Palestinian. So in Israel, you have Palestinians working everywhere, and even during war times, Jews, like Israeli Jews, have Palestinian co-workers. So we have to deal with them on a daily basis. You always have to take this into consideration. Abroad, this is not known because the media doesn't really talk about it. But here, it's like a daily matter. It's very, very normal. So what I'm trying to say is, in order to keep your daily routine, or you have a feeling of daily routine. When I made these videos in the Machane Yehuda market, it gave me a positive feeling. Like, after all what happened and what's still going on, and it looks like it's going to go on for a while, and it may get worse, um, you need something positive in your life. And only looking at those people, like going shopping or sitting in a cafe and having coffee, it does something to your emotions. It gives you a feeling of normality, of, that not the whole world is coming down on you, but that there is still a normal life, let's say, and people enjoying something. And so it also does something to you, so that you don't go insane and that you are not going into depression or something. Many times we sit at home, especially in the evenings. Here in my area, in my neighborhood where I live, as I said, there are many Palestinians, and when it's getting dark, I don't know, 6:30, 7 o'clock, it's already dark. So you have to watch when you are going out. But in my neighborhood, we always have to watch. It doesn't matter if there's a war or not, because you have to watch in this area when you walk through the streets, because many times you have Palestinian youth coming, screaming against Jews, even little children. You have, mostly it's children or young teenagers screaming against Jews and Allahu Akbar. Oh, this is very normal in our neighborhood. It's very normal sometimes to have a riot here. It's very normal that sometimes car windows get smashed, or sometimes even they burn a parked car. In my neighborhood, this is this is nothing unusual. You get used to it after a while, unfortunately. But especially now, when I take out the trash, I look who's in the street. I look who's coming, and if there's anybody coming, and even I do this in the afternoons. When you leave the house or something, you look around, who's coming, who's around. Downtown it's much better, but here in my neighborhood and also in other neighborhoods of Jerusalem who are surrounded by Palestinian neighborhoods, it's not easy, because they enter your neighborhood free, and you never know who's coming. You just never know. So you have to watch. You have to watch all the time. We have to watch anyway, and so do other neighborhoods. But when you live in a neighborhood here downtown, and you're not surrounded by anybody else, it makes life much easier. But in my neighborhood where I live, we have sometimes rocket alarm, but we also have to watch our neighbors, so to speak. So it makes it a little more difficult, because you think, like, at night they could come and try to break into your home. You don't know. So far it has been quiet. We had a few riots here, but it has been quiet. It probably also depends on if Israel is sending ground troops into Gaza, and as soon as this may happen, so we may face more violence also here in the neighborhood, as well as all over the country. So it's always the unknown, right? You come home and you don't know what's going on in the evening, if they're screaming outside, if there's, I don't know, Molotov cocktail flying, whatever. You never know. We never know anyway in this neighborhood, as I said. But life is not easy. Many people have their kids in the army, so this is another problem for them. For me, it's also not easy at the moment. A little better, but I'm a cancer patient, and you also have to think of, if you need treatment at the hospital, how to get there. And if you can go there, you know, don't know, sorry, we don't know, we don't know what's coming in the future. Because it may get much worse. And rockets all over or something. And then there won't be buses. Now buses are running mostly on a regular basis, at least in Jerusalem. And you don't know what's coming. So if you are on chemotherapy treatment or whatever, you know, it may be hard or almost impossible to get to the hospital and get your treatment. And this, as when you are sick, this causes you a lot of anxiety. I know this from the pandemic times. So my last CT result was quite positive. So I have apparently no new tumors growing. I have a few. I have 2 existing ones, but apparently they don't grow at the moment. I'm going to the hospital. My voice. I'm going to the hospital tomorrow to see my oncologist, and we're going to talk about all this, about tumors, not tumors, whatever. But not having new tumors, it takes a lot away from a possible anxiety, because then you think, like, if you have to have treatment, how you get to the hospital, and I live far away from the hospital. So you don't only have the war to deal with, but you also have your well-being. How do I get treatment if I can't get to the hospital or something? Or what if the hospital is flooded with the injured? It's already flooded, but not the oncology, of course, and the oncology keeps on working on a normal basis. But, you know, another paradox here in Israel is that many hospitals, not Hadassah Ein Kerem in Jerusalem, they refused to do that. But, you know, when the Hamas terrorists came on the 7th of October, many were shot. Finally, the army got there and police, and they were fighting them. It took, unfortunately, a few hours. And many terrorists were killed, I think 1,000 or something, and many were injured. So they took this injured Hamas terrorists to Israeli hospitals. So you had the victims, they shot or they injured, victims who escaped this massacre. You had them in the hospitals, and next door you had a Hamas terrorist being treated. And many Israelis went nuts over this. They said, you know, this can't be that they are, and they showed a few pictures of those terrorists being treated in the hospitals, and they were laying in the bed, smiling, and getting treatment here. Of course, afterwards they're being taken to prison, but first, when they were injured, they were being treated here, next door to the room where the victims are. This is you know, it's, of course, Israel needs those terrorists for the prisoner or the hostage exchange, but you know, having them in normal hospitals was just a disaster. You know, they are also taking up room, and they are being fed, and it's and they are getting free treatment here. It's just disgusting. Doing this to I wouldn't even call them animals, because even animals don't behave this way. So this is reality here, and people try their best to keep up a daily basis. We don't know for how long this is going to be possible, and people try to enjoy life if this is possible, because you always have in your mind all this over 1,000 people murdered in the most violent way. You have this in your mind. And then you have in your mind a war. So you can't just sit around and be depressed. You have to do something in your life as long as this is possible, or as much as it is possible. Yeah, this is what I wanted to say. I've talked for a long time. I will keep you up to date. And friends of mine told me that also here in Israel, most information being given are in Hebrew. And this is an Israeli problem, that most things and most details are in Hebrew and not in English. And many people abroad, they get like ordinary news, but not too much in detail, especially about what's going on with the population here and how everything works. Because you have to, it's full of Palestinians here. You have to deal with everybody here, right here, and at work and everywhere. But the problem is, like the Arabs, like Hamas, they have information, fake information most of the time. Their propaganda going out in different languages immediately. And here in Israel, first of all, everything is only in Hebrew, and it takes a while until you find someone giving the information in English or even in other languages. That's a big problem here, the language, and many Jews who made Aliyah from America, or Canada, England, and they don't speak Hebrew, or they don't know Hebrew properly. They have a total they have a total lack of information. They they imagine things, or they think they understand and they don't understand. And it's not only English speakers, it's only Russian speakers. You have also German speakers here who don't speak Hebrew properly. And but here in Israel, when you want the details and everything, it's and the news and everything is in Hebrew. You have English news websites here in Israel, but it's not so detailed, and it doesn't give you the Israeli opinion. Those English-speaking websites here in Israel are made for Americans or for tourists or for something like this. It doesn't really give you the details Israeli news websites provide. And it makes a big difference. So many English speakers here in this country, not only the English speakers, but I'm referring to the English speakers here, they don't really get the whole picture because they don't understand Hebrew. And that's a big problem. So if your Hebrew is not too good, let's say, so you should talk to Israelis and get the whole picture and get the information from them when you don't understand. Just don't try to interpret or imagine something, because you need a whole picture. This is very important. And you need to know the Israeli mindset. Israelis basically know what to do during war times and how to deal with it. Now this is very different. This situation now is very different because of the massacre. No one had ever expected this or imagined it. And the massacre causes a lot of pain to the emotions. So you have to deal not only to deal with war, but also with the massacre. It does a lot to Israelis. So at least try to learn the language once you are here, and try to understand Israeli mentality and the Israeli point of view. This is very important when you come here and live here, because you have to understand society. Otherwise, you are an outsider. So this is all I have to say today. I will keep you up to date on a more regular basis. And let's hope for the best. And when you live somewhere else, enjoy your peaceful life. And that you can just go somewhere and have some other thoughts and look at something nice, or look at nature, at landscapes, whatever. Sometimes there are times, and I sometimes look on the internet. Actually, I do this at least once a day, to look for some nice pictures, some nice landscapes, either from Switzerland or from, I don't know, just to imagine myself there and not having all these problems. But on the other hand, even let's say if I were in Switzerland and be in the middle of the Alps or something, and I would still think about Israel, and I wouldn't have peaceful thoughts and just relax, because wherever you are these days, you always think about Israel. And for me, it's better to be here instead of being abroad, because I couldn't just be abroad and sit around. And the other thing is, I'm also a cancer patient at Hadassah Ein Kerem Hospital here, and so this is very different. I can't just run away, and I wouldn't want to run away. So I wish you a nice day. Enjoy, and maybe you are able to enjoy your coffee or the restaurant or the landscape. Maybe you can enjoy it much more than we do, because we always have to think about the situation wherever we are. So thank you very much for listening.